The women's figure skating at the Olympics was a mess even before it began due to the favourite to win the gold, Kamila Valieva, having a positive doping test, and still she was allowed to compete. And when the short program well began, it got even worse due to the blatant amount of corruption. So all the excitement you got from spellbinding programs were transformed into the same amount of frustration because of these programs not getting the scores that they deserved, and instead you get to see the points raining all over the Russian ladies and the judges turning a blind eye to all of their shortcomings. And further down this video I will compare some of the elements and the scores they got so you can see how ridiculous they were. But let's begin with a short program, and the two ladies who shone the brightest here were the two Japanese girls, Kaori Sakamoto and Wakaba Higuchi. Kaori's speed and knee bend and length in her jump and overall execution of her jumps were the best by far at this event, and her interpretation of the music were ethereal to the point that I almost cried at the end. And still she was only third due to Russians getting overscored. And then we have Wakaba Higuchi, who was the only one who had a successful triple axel. It was magnificent, and she also had amazing speed and artistry. However, she was only fifth because she was underscored compared to all of the skaters at this event. She even got less points than in the team competition just a week ago, where she did a double axel instead of a triple axel. Like, how is that even possible? Well, let me tell you, that is because she is the biggest threat to an all-Russian podium. Because she got that triple axel, which is one of the hardest jumps to do, and therefore it is one of the most rewarding too. I don't know what to say. This is such a middle finger right in her face to all of her efforts and time she has put into this program. And still she was fifth and got to see all of the Russians placing before her. In fourth we have Alexandra Turusova, who fell on her under-rotated triple axel and whose artistry is not even comparable to Wakaba's. And in second we have Anna Sherbakova, whose jumping technique and skating skills is way worse than Wakaba's. And in first place, Kamila Valieva, the one with a positive doping test. So let's compare their program component scores, in short PCS, to see where all of these points came from. The most striking thing is skating skills, which I have marked in light green. Kaori is in second and Wakaba in fifth. And it is a well-known fact in the figure skating world that nobody can beat these Japanese ladies in skating skills. Like, nobody has as much of speed and knee bend and deep edges as the Japanese girls. But Kamila apparently had the best, and both Anna and Sasha were better than Wakaba. Like, the Russians don't even have that good of skating skills, and still they got one of the best. This was a robbery, a total robbery. Moving on to interpretation, performance and composition. Both Anna and Kamila, they are good at their artistry, so they deserve high points, but the Japanese girls are just as good, if not even better sometimes. And still there is a difference, a big difference, especially for Wakaba compared to Kamila. But the thing that is even against the rules is Sasha's scores. She gets 8.96 for both presentation and interpretation, where it says in the rules that the maximum score, if you fall, for interpretation and presentation are 8.75. And she got 8.96. The only way to get above 8.75 is if you were outstanding in the serve of a 10, and nobody can convince anybody that Sasha deserved a 10. Sasha is well known from being the quad queen that doesn't care about artistry, even though, yes, she did try in this program, but at most she should have been rewarded with a low 8 or high 7. Moving on to the jumps, where Sasha's were deemed quite correct. She did get some calls, while Anna and Camila got no calls whatsoever, despite Anna's flip being as unclear as ever. And both Anna and Camila's second jump in the combination was not fully rotated. It should have been marked with a Q, and that would have brought down their GWs from 3s and 4s to around 0. It's also a mystery how Anna even can get 3 and 4s in GWs when she lacks in both height and length and correct technique and takeoff. But this is the reason, at least one of them, why Camila and Anna get so high scores. It's that they are never called on their under rotation or wrong edge, while all of the other skaters get called. The judges were very harsh at this competition, as they should be, but they must have fallen asleep during Anna's or Camila's program. That's the only explanation I can get, because it was obvious to everyone else. I also want to talk about Youngyu from Korea, who actually did land a triple axel, but it was downgraded to a double, unfortunately. In my opinion, and in like the rest of the world's opinion, it shouldn't have been downgraded. Maybe like 1 under rotation mark, but not 2. Like, if she had been Camila or Anna, she would at max have been gotten a Q, I can promise you that. I actually made my own list of how I think the results in the short program would have been based on some rescoring of PCS and GW. I haven't looked at everything down to the smallest detail, but this is just an estimate of how roughly I think the results would have been. And in first place, Kaori Sakamoto. In second, Wakaba Higuchi, and in third, Kamila Valieva, even though I actually don't think she should be at this list at all because of that positive doping test. But then further down the list we have Anna Shcherbakova in 5th place and Alexandra Trusova in 8th. Write down below in the comments what you think the results in the short program should have been. Do you agree with me? Remember, this is just an estimate. Before I wrap up this video, I also want to mention Josefin Talligård from Sweden, who was on fire on the ice, but unfortunately missed the finals because her artistry wasn't rewarded, because the judges can't seem to give points to those who are bad at jumping but have good interpretation and performance. Like, she put so much energy into interpreting that music. It is so complex, and still she is ranked at the bottom half with her artistry. That's just bullshit, and I'm so mad because I would have loved seeing her do the Joker in the finals. That would have been an Olympic moment, truly. But right now, the corruption in figure skating is so bad that, in my opinion, I don't even think figure skating deserves to be an Olympic sport anymore. Because if you allow people who have positive doping tests to compete, and if the judges are so corrupt that it's unbearable to watch and they are breaking their own rules, that leads to unjustified medals being given out. And it pains me to say, because I love figure skating. It has the potential to be the best sport in the world due to its complexity and artistry, but the judges are making it the worst sport in the world. And it's unbearable to watch if you know anything about basic skating technique. And just in general, if you have eyes, you can see how they interact with the music and how the scores are just simply wrong. Of course I want figure skating at the Olympics. It's one of the highlights. But I think actually that the International Olympic Committee threatening to ban figure skating from the Olympics is one of the few methods that is gonna make it better. Because Olympics is the biggest thing by far in the figure skating world, and that might actually lead to a change if they can't have the Olympics. But we'll see in the free program. I will see you then. Bye.